We got John Brown here with us. John, how you doing, man?
I'm good. It's I don't get up this early this much anymore now that I'm doing the evening news, so it's a little different.
I know. So you're doing evening news now. Yep. So okay, we talked to you when you first came back to town, right?
Yep.
And how long ago was that?
It's been over 2 years now. That went quick.
Has it been 2 years?
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? 2 years back. So I was gone for 5. I was here for 5, gone for 5, back for 2 at this point. So
yeah.
It's good, though.
And so what was different when you moved back?
Okay.
What seemed different about Orlando to you?
Housing prices.
Oh, really?
Well, the last time we moved back here was at the very bottom when they were giving away houses.
Right.
Moving back 2 years ago.
Radio and podcasts.
Broadcasting live on iHeartRadio. I'm Russ Rollins, along with Angel and Carlos and Ryan, and we have a special guest with us here today from Fox 35. We got John Brown here with us. John, how you doing, man?
I'm good. It's I don't get up this early this much anymore now that I'm doing the evening news, so it's a little different.
I know. So you're doing evening news now.
Yep.
So okay, we talked to you when you first came back to town, right?
Yep.
And how long ago was that?
It's been over 2 years now. That went quick.
Has it been 2 years?
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? 2 years back. So I was gone for 5. I was here for 5, gone for 5, back for 2 at this point. So
It's
good,
though. And so what was different when you moved back?
Okay.
What seemed different about Orlando to you?
Housing prices.
Oh, really?
Well, the last time we moved back here was at the very bottom when they were giving away houses.
Right.
Moving back 2 years ago was significantly different. But I think the biggest change is just the sheer number of people, because we left right when they were starting to do the I-4 Ultimate project.
Right.
And yeah, there was some traffic out there, but coming in this morning, even from Sanford to here, I mean, this is a major city now, and you know it when you're in the morning commute.
Yeah.
I was listening to you guys the whole way in. I got the whole conversation about wrapping your car and everything else. So I got more time with you guys this morning, but you can see that this town has gone from, a moderate-sized city that everybody knows for Disney and the beaches and everything to a major city. And it's mornings like today that you really realize it.
And where were you? Like you moved
St. Louis.
from St. Louis.
Yeah. So St. Louis is home, and so we've gone back there a couple of times between the Daily Buzz gig and this one. Every time we go back up there, especially this time of year, you're like, oh, yeah, it's cold this time of year. I think we're good.
And I was just talking to you and telling you that, last time I saw you, we were at an event, and you asked me what vacation I went on, and we went to the Ozarks. We went to Branson, Missouri, which is, close to, where you're from, right?
Yep. I grew up in that area. And people think that Branson, they had this certain perception of Branson and the hillbillies, and it's all true.
Yeah.
But it's also awesome. And people don't realize how beautiful that part of the country is. I mean, that's where Tiger Woods decided to build his first public golf course.
Yeah.
And, all the Bass Pro money, Johnny Morris, who's the man behind Bass Pro, has dedicated his riches, his billions, and his life to preserving that area.
That makes
sense. So that's why it's that way. It's amazing with all that money behind it right now.
You just said that, and that just kind of clicked with me. Now, I ran into Larry the Cable Guy when I was there, and he was probably golfing. Because that's a lot of people that love golfing go there.
Well, you knew it became a big deal. So Branson was one of the first towns in the country to build their own private airport because they couldn't get the money. So they built that airport there. And next thing you know, you're hearing stories about Michael Jordan flying into town to play golf. And then you have Tiger Woods building his course. And then all these other celebrities like Larry the Cable Guy.
Right.
And it's just wholesome. I mean, it's one of those places where there's no crime. It's, there is crime, but it's way back out in the woods. But it's not like you're never afraid. Because I worked in Springfield, Missouri, which was my first gig, just a little north of Branson. It's one of those towns where you're never worried about anything. You don't have to watch your back. You just relax, and that's why so many older people and younger people are now moving there.
Yeah,
it's just a good place.
So now you're not from Orlando,
no,
but you've written a book about the secrets of Orlando. Now, like I'm born and raised here, and I went through the book, and there was stuff here that I had never even heard of. So where did you get the research for the book? And I'll put it up right now so people can see it on the YouTube channel. Like, how did you find out all the different things about that are in the book?
So I'm a big history buff, first of all, and this is my 10th book overall, and they're mostly history. And I also wrote the one.
Awesome,
if you guys remember, I think you guys had me on 100 Things to Do in Orlando Before You Die, which was just before I left.
Yeah.
And so I like to incorporate history.
How do you write them? Do you take time? Like, do you have do you schedule out your writing? Like, because to do 10 books while you're a father and an anchor and all these things.
So what I try and do, well, because of the odd schedule that we all have, you find time. So doing the evenings right now, and I did evenings up in St. Louis. What are you going to do all day, right?
Yeah,
so I would sit around, and at some point you can only play golf so much, you can only exercise so much, and so the house is empty. And I'm like, okay, I'll start writing some more. And I just love writing.
Gotcha. Okay, cool, smart.
Yeah, and so that's what I was doing. And with this one, the one thing I'm always fascinated here is how few people know about the history of this town, because it seems like it's somewhat new. The town really started, and I do air quotes, started in the late 1960s when Disney showed up.
Right.
We went from a town of 30,000 people to now a metro area of 2.5 million. And so I like diving into those stories and finding out things that people don't know about. And that's my passion. That's why it's the Secret series. And my publisher's doing these all over the country. But finding out these secrets that even locals don't know. So I'm glad that you say that you lived here and you didn't know some of these things exist, because they're fascinating stories here that people don't know are right here.
Now, here's what I think I love. Of course, Savannah is on our show once a week, all the week. And Savannah is she's actually the person that started Gatorland Global, and you mentioned that in the book. And then you've got the Gator Jaws on the front of the book. What was the secret, or what is it about Gatorland that is in other than the Gatorland Global? What did you have about the Gatorland?
That you can go in there overnight and see what it's actually like. And I don't know if you guys have done that trip, but that is really cool to be able to go in there and see what we've
done live broadcasts there, and we have to get there at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And when you walk in there when it's totally dark, Angel is usually with me. The eyes that are glowing in that one marsh
in the swamp,
it's scary as hell.
Well, so think about that existence right there. So this kind of ties together a story I recently did. You're in enemy territory, right? You walk in there and you're like, anything here could eat me. Even the capybaras over there could eat me at some point, I assume.
Right.
So I just did the python hunt down in the Florida Everglades. And so we're wandering through the swamps of the Everglades in the middle of the night doing that.
That's
and it flashed me back. I'm like, at least Gatorland's controlled. Like, you can get that experience without being sloshing around through the Everglades with gators everywhere hunting for pythons.
Yeah.
It has everything right there. And those are the cool kind of things that, tourists can enjoy, but also locals can enjoy too, and there's a story behind it.
So let me ask you about that. Okay, another place that we have fallen in love with this year, because we've done our 30-year anniversary tour, and we went and did our live shows at a bunch of different places, and one of the places that really embraced the monsters, we had no idea, Mount Dora. Mount Dora is like, they gave us the key to the city. It's like we are been adopted by Mount Dora, and in here there's a story about the Mount Dora catacombs.
Okay.
What's that?
Coolest story in the entire book, right there. I'm glad you brought that one up, because a lot of people don't realize this existed. So the wealthiest 25 families in Mount Dora all got together, members of the Mount Dora Yacht Club. And this was during the time of the Cold War. And so there was a lot of fear. People were building these underground bunkers. Well, the 25 wealthiest families in Mount Dora decided to pool their money and build one big bunker. Now, they call it the catacombs. It's just a big bunker. And hardly anybody knows where this is. They ended up having to do this huge excavation project. It's a 5,000 square foot bunker that's built underground. They came up with stories about why they were doing construction, because they didn't want everybody else to know. So if the war broke out, people wouldn't flock in there.
Gotcha.
So they built this entire bunker, big enough for 25 families, for 6 months. And they got the local pharmacists, the doctors, all the other local leaders. And so they fully stocked this thing when they got it done. They covered it up. Nobody knows where it's at. The entrance to it was apparently in kind of a barn structure. That's how you got in.
Right.
So they all went in for 1 weekend to test it out. Now, you think underground, a basement, right? It had a ventilation system. I mean, these are wealthy people over there. The pharmacy was fully stocked with drugs, penicillin, things like that. There were toys for the kids.
So this had to be in the 60s, right?
It was in 1961. That's when they started doing this. Yeah. And so they all went in there, and they did their weekend, and then the tension started to thaw between the United States and Russia. And so it just kind of got abandoned. Well, like I said, there's only a few people who know where it is, and only a handful or less have gone in there. And the pictures that you see, the toys that the kids played with, are still there on the ground.
Oh, wow.
The drugs in the pharmacy are still on the wall. And so it still exists.
Did you get to... So you're not one of those lucky people.
I didn't get to go in, but because I love research, we started looking at different... I don't want to give away too much, because they really don't want you to know where this is, but I'll show you guys where it is. You start looking at former aerial photos.
Yeah.
And Lake County has all this. You can see what it was like in the 1950s.
Right.
Then you see this area had a good idea where it was, where the wealthiest families lived at that point. Then you see the area in the 1960s, then the 1970s. You're like, okay, something doesn't match here. There's a bunch of trees missing here. There's an old orange grove here, and it was clear cut. And now when you look at the Google image today, you can see that. I just saw the picture right there. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
You can still see the aerial imprint where this place is. So it's still there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how big it was. You can see the picture right there. It is fascinating.
Wow.
And so that's the kind of stuff, like, how did you keep this a secret since 1961 that so few people even know where it's at? And if you ask around at Mount Dora, if people even admit that they know that it exists, they don't know where it is. Like the mayor, you were there the night the mayor was there. Like either she knows or she has no idea, but they'll just brush it off very quickly and move on.
Cool. The book is called Secret Orlando with John Brown. Another thing I was going to ask you about. Okay, so one of the do you cover or do you talk about the secret? I guess they're supposed to be like hallways underneath downtown Orlando to get you from like Cheyenne Saloon to some other bar because they had to sneak jazz performers from like is any of that true?
So yes, it is true and it's not true. How about that for a tease?
Yeah.
So the old Angebilt Hotel, Angebilt. That was the original fancy place in downtown Orlando. Excuse me, fighting the cold, right there along Orange Avenue. And at that point, they also had the Beecham, which was the club where everybody played. All the vaudeville performers of that era played at that area. So you got to remember, in Orlando, that was the only entertainment at that point. So when these stars came to town, it's like a Brad Pitt. It's like a Julia Roberts, right? Everybody's flocking to see these people. So there is a tunnel that connects the two. It goes under Orange Avenue from the Angebilt Hotel, which is still there. It's now got a different name, but you see the big A's in the building when you walk down there, and the Beecham, which is still there as well. So there's this tunnel that goes underneath it. But the thing is, in order for the stars to have passed between one, and there's a trapdoor behind the stage at the Beecham that used to, I don't know if it still does, goes down, goes underneath Orange Avenue and connects. So the idea or the theory was this is how the stars got back and forth, so they didn't get mobbed on Orange Avenue when they had those huge crowds out there. Well, it's not that nice, and it's not that big. You would probably have to crawl through in some places.
Oh, wow.
And you can see kind of what it's like.
Oh, I see. Right there. Okay,
and so it does go through. So maybe it was kind of a diversion. The other thing is this was during Prohibition, so they may have also hit alcohol down there.
Got you.
And that was a way that they could either
makes
get it
more
from
sense.
one side to the other. But one of the things that we found was what they likely did to get people back and forth was they caused a diversion.
Yeah.
So they would cause a diversion a little further north or south on Orange Avenue, and then the celebrities would pass unknown. So even PR publicists in Orlando at that point had a plan to get them back and forth. You create a diversion, and then you bring the star behind all the crowd as they were there watching. So the tunnel exists. They probably just didn't crawl through the tunnel back in that area. So it's true, but it's not true.
The book looks great.
Thank you.
You got the I-4 eyesore. You got a but. Can we got to take a break. Can we just ask you a couple more questions?
I'm good all morning.
If you want to get the book, where do you get it?
My website is the best place. I mean, I got it the same day you got it, just a couple of days ago, and so I just got my first shipment. JohnBrownTV.com is my personal website, and you go to JohnBrownTV. You see the book right there. You can order, and then I sign them. If you need it, how about this? Black Friday early. I'll sign them and send them out to you. Your Christmas shopping's done for the year.
Very nice. It's really cool.
Thank you.
I want to ask you a couple more questions. Very interesting. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Match of the Morning.
Got an iPhone? So we